Welcome back, everybody, to Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast. Today is January 1st of 2025. I hope everyone has a great year and a prosperous year at that. We are replaying the most popular episode of 2024 with Jessica Johnson, episode 17. The reason why is she is on a tear. Since the episode, she's gotten 3 more houses under contract, and she is kicking some butt. So enjoy.
Little tiny old me, like just now starting out. So I did expect it to take some time. I think having the skills for therapy of active listening and reflecting and trying to figure out what's going on and why the sellers are feeling a certain way or what they're going through and how to help them in the situation. I think that my expertise helps with some of those conversations, but it's still not always easy. The people who want to talk, I can talk to them, and the people who clearly don't want to talk, I get a sense from them over the phone of, all right, I'm ready to get off the phone, or they're being very short, and it's intimidating. Even though you have the skills, when you sense that somebody doesn't really want to talk to you, it makes you clam up.
Welcome, everybody, to Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast. I am your West Coast representative, Rusty Ham. On the East Coast, Steve Marinick. Steve, say hi.
Hello, Russell. Glad to be back with one of my favorite humans.
That's right. One of our favorite humans. We do have a guest today, everyone. Her name is Jessica Johnson from Tennessee.
Yes.
Welcome, Jessica. So we're just going to introduce yourself, the growing up, before you got into real estate. Again, we touched upon the 3 pillars: mindset, skill set, and systems. So what were you doing before, and then why did you get into real estate type of thing? And then just roll from there. We'll get into the mindset, skill set, and systems when you got into the community.
Okay. Yes, my name is Jessica. Like Russ said, I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Georgia. I moved to Tennessee in 2017 for a job. I am in the mental health field. I have a LPC licensed professional counselor with a mental health specialty. Currently, for my W-2, I do that. I manage a clinic. We do outpatient therapy and medication management services. So I'm over the therapist and the medication providers, and I just really make sure that everything's running smoothly on a day-to-day basis. So when I moved to Tennessee, I had this job, and I've been with the same company ever since.
Yeah, nice. So you're doing that, and then all of a sudden something clicked, and you're like, hey, I want to get into real estate. So what was that like? What was your process and your mindset on that?
Let's see. So everything in life happens for a reason. And I got my dog Lily in July 1st of 2013. And I can think of a series of events that have happened since I've got her because I got her. So I won't talk about all those, but what got me into real estate, I have a really good friend, and she has previously had Airbnbs and rentals. So she was like my inspiration. And you guys all know this, but my dad passed away in 2016. And so the house that he had, I was living with him when he passed away. And so I turned that home into a rental home whenever I moved to Tennessee. So that's the rental property that I had. So I've been like a landlord, but it was a home that I inherited. It wasn't anything that I purchased. I had literally no real estate background. But my friend, seeing her do Airbnbs, I was like, okay, this is something that I might want to get into just for long-term financial benefits of real estate, retirement, things like that. So I have met my husband, and I went on a trip that we weren't supposed to go on. And it was a tiny home, and there was 2 tiny homes, and a lady there, she was part of the owner of the tiny home. And so I was like, okay, what a crazy coincidence. We weren't supposed to be here. Now we run into this lady who owns this tiny home. She was a part of a community, and she invited me to come to her groups. And so I did, and it didn't really feel like home though. And so I talked to my husband and to my friend about it, and they're like, I don't know. There's so many other options out there. Just research and see what you find. Don't go with the first one that, you find. That's when I started listening to podcasts, and that's how I found Wicked Smart. And around the same time I joined Wicked Smart, I found out I was pregnant. And I'm like, hey, this is my why. This is why I'm doing this. I wanted to get into real estate for mainly retirement, but now I want to get into it because I'm having a baby, growing a family, and I want to be able to be there and be present with my daughter, my husband, and not have to be stuck in a office all the time.
That's right.
Could you put any more on your plate at the same time, Jess?
I've had worse on my plate. I always like to stay busy, so it's been fun. It's been a long journey, especially like coming into it, not knowing anything about real estate and really just like starting from ground zero. But Steve was actually one of the first people I talked with before I joined the community. I talked with Chris and Brian, and so I felt at home with Wicked Smart. I felt like this is where I needed to be. I felt like I was surrounding myself with the best people out there. So that's really why I joined and why I've stayed.
Yeah. Good segue. Steve, you want to talk about the skill set since she mentioned you and you're one of her first coaches. I know, Steve, you want to touch on that?
Yeah. As just the beginning stages of starting a real estate business, what you have to learn how to do first is communicate with human beings. And you obviously with your career have that skill set anyways. And I noticed over time, outside the fact that you were just an incredible student and everything that we taught you, you put in place immediately, no matter how uncomfortable it was, and you were incredibly disciplined. But communicating in a new field with somebody where you're not 100% confident in the information that you're trying to communicate with them can be difficult. So can you just touch upon what did you have to do in the beginning stages of making your calls? What made you really, because you got very good at it, and you got, in my opinion, very good at it quick, but what would you say were the main pieces of that you had to like put together to get really confident on the phone? Because it takes a little while.
Yeah, I think just diving into it, honestly, like facing the fear, it's very scary to call a seller and to not really know what you're doing. And in the beginning stages, it's so much learning. And I just think about what you have said, a bunch of people have said, like, I went to school for counseling for 6 years. I put 6 years of practice and work into it. And when I started, I wasn't anywhere where I am now. So it's the same thing. It's just relearning everything. And so I think going into it, I made sure to just listen to what my coaches told me to do. I'm in this program because I'm learning from people who have done it, and I'm not here to do it alone. So the best way to learn and to get better is to listen to your coaches and to utilize the skills that they're talking with you about and giving you. So I think a lot of it was listening to live calls, sending in call critiques, asking questions. I came prepared every single week. There are sometimes Steve and I met for a whole hour
Yeah.
because I just had so much to talk about and so many questions. And so I think that's it. Facing the fear, just diving into it, because you're not going to learn really unless you put it into practice.
Did you feel like with your career, and obviously, like you said, you still had to put a bunch of time in to start like coming into your own. Did you feel that when you came into calling people on the phone, just because you had so much confidence in your career, did you think that was almost immediately going to pull into place? Or did you have the expectation that this was something new and it was going to take time again? I'm just curious because everybody has a warped version of that.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was going to take time. I don't know if I realized how much time it would take, but it takes time. And I knew it would take time, especially again, being new and being surrounded by so many amazing people who have done this for so long and have so much experience compared to just this little tiny old me, like just now starting out. So I did expect it to take some time. I think having the skills for therapy of like active listening and reflecting and trying to figure out what's going on and why the sellers are feeling a certain way or what they're going through and how to help them in the situation. I think that my like expertise helps with some of those conversations, but it's still not always easy. The people who want to talk, I can talk to them, and the people who clearly don't want to talk, I get a sense from them over the phone of, all right, I'm ready to get off the phone, or they're being very short, and it's intimidating. Even though you have the skills, when you sense that somebody doesn't really want to talk to you, it makes you clam up.
Yep. I agree. I listened to a call the other day and she was a very difficult one. And you were short back with her and you just got off the phone quickly. So, yeah.
I've definitely learned that over time, how to handle those people, but it's still a little intimidating.
Yep.
Quick question, just because of, I know the answer to this, Jess, I'm sure you do too, but I remember in compliments make me feel uncomfortable. I don't know if that makes anybody else here uncomfortable, but when in the beginning, not even the beginning, let's say even 6 months in, I thought you were so much farther progressed than anybody else I was coaching on the phone. You didn't believe it. But I remember being like, Jess, I kept asking Jess, can I use this call recording? This is going to be super helpful to the community. Can I use this? And I kept asking you like, yeah, I don't really know if it's like that good. But that's a weird piece of this too, is even when you have this skill set that you've worked your butt off to continue to just level up, there's a belief system inside of you that what's going on in Jess's brain is very different than what's going on to these people who are now looking up to you in the community. They're like, I wish someday I could communicate like Jess, the way that you communicate with people. And in your head, you're looking at, oh, I wish I did that a little differently, this, that, and the other. But like, how long did it take you from like when I was asking you if I could use these recordings to benefit people to where you actually started believing that this was going to be helpful? This was a good call. I am improving. Like, when did that start to come into place?
I don't think it took very long. And I think really QLS last year was a huge eye opener for me, because I had people wanting to come and talk with me at lunch and talk with me after the event and ask me questions and give me those compliments of how I've taught them or helped them in certain ways. And so that was like a huge difference of being with people in person and talking with them and engaging with them and hearing their positive feedback. I think that's probably when it was like, okay, this is legit. Like, I'm not perfect and I'm not the expert, but I have grown and I have learned things that can help other people.
Yeah, part of our core values is effort for effort. We pour gas on those that are active, and we've said many times in the community that Jessica is one of our ideal students, because she just does what she is asked of her, and we just pour gas on you all the time, and it shows. And we're going to talk about one of your deals. You have a few deals on the market right now. Let's pivot to systems, the third part of our systems. Steve and I always joke that we were paper and pencil when we first started, and we had the 31 folders, and over time it got overwhelming for us. So then we made the jump into a CRM. And so describe the beginnings, your system, and where you're at now.
Yes, I started out just using an Excel spreadsheet. And then eventually it was only for a few months. And then the first QLS I attended virtually. But after that, I got a CRM. I got FreedomSoft. And then I used FreedomSoft for about a little over a year. And then people were switching over to REI Blackbook. And honestly, the expense was becoming too much. And now I'm paper pencil. I write everything. I keep my 31 folders. I have all of my lead sheets printed out. So I've completely started with a CRM and I've gone backwards. And honestly, I love it. The CRM is great for a lot of reasons, but it was hard for me to set up the systems within the CRM to follow up the way that I wanted to. And so now every day I just put my lead sheets where I need to call them back, and I just pick up that folder every day and I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And there's not a bunch of like red overdue or need to call or past due or anything. So I've been paper pencil since January 1st. That was one of my goals in my business plan. And that's how I'm in.
Very cool.
The thought of starting with an Excel sheet for me is terrifying. I might as well have a typewriter sitting there
Putting in formulas and stuff. It's crazy. So you went backwards. I know a lot of people in the community, when they get overwhelmed with leads, or they're running out of time, they have a W-2 and they don't have a whole lot of time to make dials, they get a VA. Are you currently utilizing a VA, or is it just you solopreneur?
It's just me. I do it all. And I don't see that I'll hire a VA until at least I have a sold or two, just for financial purposes.
Sure.
So it's just me running the show.
There you go. Good transition. Let's talk about let's talk about the deal you have. I don't know, Steve, if you want to set it up. And I know you have two, Jessica. One you said Steve helped you with a year ago, but let's talk about the current one. And then Steve, I don't know if you want to set that up for.
Yeah, sure. The framework just would be, and it's always good for people to hear how you acquired the lead, like how long it took for you to get it under contract, meaning was there a ton of touch points? Was it quick? What was like the reason why something creative solved their problem? And then from there, we'll take a look at what it is on the disposition side, meaning selling it, that has been going on so far, and kind of interest have you had so far?
Yeah, so some people have probably heard me talk about this, and it honestly hasn't been an easy thing for me. It was a super fast from first call to taken, probably less than a week. I reached out to him and he has moved out of the home. He's been out, I think it was an expired. He had it listed with a realtor, it didn't sell. And he moved to, so this is in Chattanooga, and he's moved to Nashville for a job. He moved, I think, about 6 months ago. And so he didn't sell with a realtor, and he had a realtor friend who told him, hey, you should just do similar rent to own. But the seller said, he really didn't know how to start that or what to do. And so it was like the stars aligned. Like it seemed perfect. Like he was looking for me. I was looking for him. He was like, this sounds great. But I think I rushed into it a little bit too quickly in terms of price. He was overpriced, and the monthlies are very high. And I just took him for his word of what it could rent out for and stuff like that. So I called him, then I went to see the home, and then I followed up with him and put all his numbers it's an AO. So I put all the numbers in the contract and he signed it, and it was right before I went on vacation. So good timing, but also bad timing. I was expecting, well, I was gone for 8 days. And so I was expecting to be very overwhelmed coming back and having a bunch of emails to respond to. And I think I had one person the entire time. So I have it listed with Prosperity. So all the websites, I have it on Craigslist and Facebook, and then I also have signs up. So I would say I've had it's been since August 1st, so a little over a month. I'd say I have maybe 10 people message me about it. I've had one person see it, and then I also had another person who wanted to see it, but once they figured out the purchase price, they said they don't have enough for the down right now, but they would be looking to see if they could come up with some money. So there's another potential, but honestly, like the monthly is just high, and I think the rental price is just a little high, and that's my typically if you're not getting a lot of interest, then you're overpriced somewhere, and I think it's the monthly.
Does this deal?
Yeah, Steve, let's back up a little bit, just for the listeners, in case people don't know. A taken in our community, a taken's a house. You get a house under contract, right? So we buy on terms. We don't use banks or realtors, so it's shuffling papers in a sense, right? We get it under contract, and then she mentioned AO. So I wanted to define that if you haven't gone through our podcast where we go into AOs. And AO is called an assign out, or we also call it an executive lease purchase, where we go out and find a buyer for the seller, and then we match the buyer to the seller, and then we take our portion of the down payment, and then we're free and clear of that. We walk away, and then now the seller is in charge of getting that buyer to the finish line. And then Prosperity is a third party company that advertises for us and does all the bookkeeping. Steve, I cut you off. I don't know what you were going to say, but go ahead.
Just to clarify things. I think when it comes to the property being on the market, so the first things first, when you get a property under contract, that means you have an opportunity to sell it. Sometimes you have to take things with higher prices or higher monthlies and then go back to the seller if you don't get any kind of, or at least not that you're not getting any kind of traction, but for you to be able to come back and see if, hey, you know what, it's been a month, not getting the traction that we thought. Typically that's either attached to the price or the monthly, usually the monthly first. So with this gentleman here, does he have any expectations that there's any room to drop it down? Is that like his mortgage payment? He's not making any monthly money. I'm just curious, with that payment being high, is there any room to go back and renegotiate?
Excuse me. So he actually dropped the price pretty quickly. So I went on vacation the 3rd and I came back the 8th. And I think that week I had come back, he had asked if I had any interest in it, if I had gotten a lot of interest. And I said no. He dropped the price $50,000 and he dropped the monthly for $100. So he did that pretty quickly on to try to get more traction. So I did it. But then I had the conversation with him because there was a situation where I sent a buyer out to the home to see it, and he did not like that I sent the buyer out without being there to show them the home, and he got upset with me. And so I gave it time to simmer, and then I felt like he had these high expectations of me to get it sold very quickly and to give him consistent updates. And so I was feeling a little I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable not being able to give him any updates because I'm not getting any interest. So I just called him one day after talking with Russ and Chris and Nick and just to set the expectation of what's going to happen moving forward. And I had mentioned to him that I had not gotten a lot of feedback, and part of that is because of the monthly. And he said he was not willing to go down any more on the monthly. He felt like it would be too risky for him to go down. So his monthly payment is $2,700. So he's at $2,450, and even adding in taxes, I don't think it would get us. It would be just under 27. So he still have to subsidize a little bit. But he said last I spoke with him that he's not willing to go down anymore.
Also, too, you said that was what, like 475 was the current price? Is that what you said earlier?
No, the price for this one. So we started out under agreement at 550, and then he dropped it down to 500.
Okay. Realistically, with interest rates, that's that payment of, would you say it was 24, 27? Would you say?
27.
Yeah, that's accurate anyways with any bank. So it's just 30 days isn't a very long time to have it on the market. Usually within 90 or 120 days is where you've exhausted all options. So it's still early there. And what potential assignment fee would it be, Jess, if you guys go ahead and sell it in the next maybe 60 days or something?
If we got 10%, it would be around 50,000.
That's great. How much are you sharing anything with the seller?
Yeah, 50-50.
Okay, so a $25,000 assignment. That's awesome. It's early right now. So you just gotta continue doing what you're doing and play around with the marketing, and that's awesome right now that you got some momentum going.
Very cool. So that's one of our game plans. We have 4 game plans for those listeners. We have the AO, executive lease purchase. And then the other game plans are a lease purchase with the option to buy. We have subject to buying a house, subject to the existing mortgage. And then we also have owner financing. So let's pivot to the one you and Steve worked on. It's been on the market for a while. We don't necessarily need to say how long it's been on the market, but this is a lease purchase, correct? So describe that one? What was it expired? What was that? And then the motivation. Just describe that one that you have on the market as well.
Yeah, so the other one I've had, it was an expired as well. The sellers live in Texas, and this home is in Georgia. It was used as a second home. I think they bought it with the intent of it being a second home, and they just don't make it out very often. So it's currently an Airbnb. They are getting ready to retire, so they just wanted to get the home off their hands and just be done with it. It has been on the market for a little bit. And if you've ever bought a house, that you're always looking for something in particular with a house. And I know our rent-to-own market, a lot of times they're more so looking for opportunity, but this is still almost a $500,000 house. And it is on a traditional mountain road, very narrow, gravel, requires 4-wheel drive, and is about 30 minutes from the downtown area, and no cell phone service. It's just going to take a specific buyer, really. And I've had a ton of interest in it, really. I had 2 people see it yesterday, 1 person seeing it today. And there's a buyer's meeting scheduled on November 21st. There's still a lot of action on it. But like I said, it just where it's at, and just given the circumstances, not everybody wants to live on a mountain on a gravel road. And there's still.
Have you had any people, I'm just curious, interested in the traditional sale, just buying it?
I've had a ton of people reach out to me, a lot of people wanting to do like short-term housing for nursing. There's also some people that have reached out wanting it as an Airbnb, and I have, of course, told them through our rent-to-own they could not rent it out, but if they wanted to purchase it outright, we would consider offers with proof of funds or a pre-approved letter, and nobody has done that so far. I always let people know that it's an option if they want to, but of course, nobody's ever presented an offer.
You're in a good situation. The fact that the owners of the property utilize it as an Airbnb and it's not interfering with what they're doing. So the extra time you have gives you the opportunity to be more selective and most likely probably get a higher down payment, I would assume as well, just because you have the extra time. And then you have that buyer's meeting in November, which is absolutely awesome. Hopefully something happens even before that. But
I missed September 21st. Sorry.
It's September. Are you there?
Yeah, a couple of weeks, not November. 9/21 is when the meeting is.
We have a buyer's meeting in November of 2026, and it looks promising.
Wouldn't that be something? Right, I'm glad you said that. I'm in September.
Yeah, so very cool. So again, lease purchases, we agree on a price with the seller. We take over any and all responsibilities of their expenses. and then we find a rent-to-own buyer, place them in there. We are in the middle at that point. So we make more money if we do a lease purchase rather than an AO, right? An AO is only a payday 1. In this situation, Jessica, you're going to get a payday 1, 2, and 3. How long is the term for with seller? When you find a buyer?
24 months with the option of 2 6-month extensions.
Okay. Sounds familiar. We were working on a deal. We were working on a deal recently, Steve, a couple of days ago, which is the guy wanted shorter term, but he wanted a higher price, and we said, no, we don't do that. If you want a higher price, we need a longer term. So not sure how that one's working out, Jessica, but go ahead.
That's a cool little point there, right? Because it's like that illusion piece. So we usually try to get 36-month minimum as a timeline with the seller until we cash them out. I remember specifically with them, they were still so stuck on 24 months, but obviously wanted to get it under contract. So what do we do? So what Jess has suggested to the seller is, well, we'll agree to 24 months as long as you give us 2 6-month extensions if we need it. Essentially, it's still 36 months, but that gives us the ability to be able to cash them out earlier, of course, but at the same time, that gave us the ability to get on a contract, give them what it is that they want, but at the same time, realistically, it's 36 months. So it was just good scripting Jess had on that to be able to get it on a contract, meet their needs, but also give her room if she needed the time in the future. So that's a pretty cool skill set piece there.
Yeah, very cool. So we have QOS Live coming up. I know, Jessica, you unfortunately can't make it. Boo-hoo. I got teardrops because we
I'll be there in
hung out
October.
last time. I worked at school. What's that?
I said I'll be there in October.
Oh, okay.
What's in October?
What's that?
What's in October?
I'm coming to the
yeah, so we have these in the trenches boot camps. So monthly they invite, I think, 15, 20 people to come. They do calls for them. So they bring in leads, and Chris and Zach will call the leads for them, set up appointments, and then when they go back. So that's our new strategy, is bring associates in monthly. But yeah, I'm going to miss Jessica. We had a good time last time.
We did.
Right. So if hypothetically someone's listening to this in Tennessee and they want to get a hold of you, maybe to do something with you, what kind of contact information do you have for them? Email, phone number?
I have a phone number and an email. My phone number is 423-838-2020, and my email is jessica@bluejpropsolutions.com.
There you go. We'll put in that show notes in case they didn't get that. Steve, any parting words before this is our cool down. So our warm up was skills, mindset, skill set, and systems. Our game plan, we talked about both an AO and lease purchase. Now we got our cool down, if we want to equate it to a practice plan. Our cool down, Steve, do you have any parting words for Jessica? Jessica, we'll leave the last words for you, but go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I think it's just from coaching a lot of people in the past, it's pretty easy to see which ones are dabbling and which students are 100% committed. And being 100% committed is not easy. It's not supposed to be. This isn't easy. It's not. This is real estate in general, no matter what you're doing. It is a grind. It's not a fit for everybody. But if you are going to give it a shot, you need to commit. Jess has been committed since day one. Her output was higher than anybody else. Her putting herself in uncomfortable situations of throwing as many call critiques out there, good calls, bad calls, whatever. Like, this is the kind of things that you need to do to be able to be successful and build a skill set. It takes some time, and it's up to you how long that path is going to take, right? You can go in and out. I'm going to call, a handful today, maybe next day, whatever it is. You can just see the difference of the people you're surrounded with and how their skill sets are absolutely flourishing based off of their commitment to show up even when they don't want to. And just, that's been you from day one. You were the easiest person I've ever coached. Probably the best on the phone that I've experienced. And that just came down to just relentless action. And that's what it takes. It's been a privilege working with you from day one. I do wish we could go on a boat again with your husband and all the other people. That's fun in Newport ever. That was such a fun. I have videos on my phone of hilarious stuff that I actually saw the other day. I'm like, oh my God, I missed that. So let me know when you're in town for your October visit. I'd love to come out and spend the night with you, your husband, whoever's there, and see you guys in too long.
We just said spend the night.
Oh God, it didn't sound great. All right. I'd like to spend some time at a bar, drink alcoholic beverages, catch up with you and your husband and anybody else that's there in a completely normal, not creepy way. That would be really fantastic.
That boat trip was like one of my like top 5 memories for sure. That was so much fun. But I want to say, and was saying something we didn't talk about is I've been doing this I signed up August of 22, but I took 3 months off. So technically November will be 2 like active years of doing this. And in August, I was like about ready to just throw my hands up and quit. And I reached out to Chris and I said, I need help. I don't like feeling this way and I don't want to give up. And so I got connected to him and some other coaches that really helped. And so because of that situation, I've really worked on mindset. So I think mindset is just such a huge thing that people have to consider when they're coming into this. And just knowing that it's a learning curve and it's not always going to be perfect. But I always say there's no way I can fail if I don't give up. Like I may not be successful right now, but that doesn't mean like I won't be successful. I will be successful. There's no way I will fail if I keep moving forward. And so some things I tell myself that, and I just tell myself that it's 100% possible for me to be successful. Like I'm committed, I'm confident, this is where I'm supposed to be. There's no time limit for success either. So some people get it done in 3 months, some people get it done in 5 years, but I'd rather push forward for that 5 years to flourish the rest of my life than to only push forward for 2 years and give up and then regret it. So just some things that I do for mindset. I review my why every day. I've been doing that since August. I listen to Motiversary, which is a YouTube channel for best motivational speeches. I've started listening to live calls again just because I felt pretty complacent. And so I just am listening to live calls again to get back into that and just visualization. So there's just a couple of things I'm doing for mindset to get myself back on track. But I just want everybody to know that mindset is huge. And you'll hear it not just from me, but from all the coaches and any other motivational person, the difference between those who are successful and those who are not is mindset. So it's just a huge piece to this.
I love it. Thank you.
Love it, Jessica. What a great way to end this episode. I appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to getting this thing sold. This one that you have a couple buyers. I appreciate you coming on and just loving to see the growth, right? I saw you in August of 22, right? And you were with for the first 90 days, right? And to see you in the 2 years, how you've grown and to end it the way you just did with your mindset, because it's not easy. Steve and I have talked about it multiple times on other episodes. It is not easy. It's not roses. You're going to have your ups and downs. And I remember you having those downs. Chris even shared your nightly accountability with all the coaches. And we heard the tone of your voice and we were just like, oh crap, we need to reach out to her. Awesome stuff. And we'll catch you guys later. Steve, thank you. Jessica, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
You're welcome. See you guys.
Adios.
Bye.
Hang on, Jessica.